The button has been pushed. Hello and welcome. We are back in the basement, the dungeon, and we have a special guest with us this week's folk, Mr. Tony Sipich.
Evening.
What's up, bud? And of course, Shay fucked off last week, so he wasn't with us at the Mish, and now he's in his own basement. I'm proud of you. At least you have a poster up behind your shoulder.
I do. Excuse me. That is a classic movie poster from the 1991 seminal film Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah by Toho Films. I haven't figured out where to hang it yet.
A fucking nerd button for you.
I mean, I'm not gonna pan this camera around.
The deep
cut. A lot of shit in here.
Yeah, we're doing a music fucking podcast. Let's talk about Godzilla versus. I mean, all I'm used to is playing Godzilla with my kids and stepping on shit. So that's about as close as I get. But what up, Shay? Thank you for joining us, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Sorry I couldn't make it to the Mish, but it's one of those things where there's only so much vodka Red Bull you can drink at a show and still be functional the next day. That's what I learned.
That's why you need a Tesla. You can make sandwiches. You can
yes.
It just brings you right there. Bright orange Toyota Tacomas don't do that. You know what they do?
Catch a lemon.
Get me speeding tickets.
Yeah. And fucking lose set lists for Mountain Grass Unit.
Listen, that is not fair. The wind did that. Don't blame that on my truck. She didn't do anything.
I blame you mostly.
That's fair. So, blame me.
Let's not make this about us. Let's talk about Tony. For some of you guys that don't know, and if you haven't picked it up yet, we're avid poster. I mean, this kid's a nerd with movie posters, but I know you have show posters in that room somewhere too, Shay.
Yep, just over here. Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just off camera so that nobody needs to see it. So fuck that. Who cares into, actually figuring out your basement? But you'll just come back to the piss rug and we'll figure it out. But so I wanted to talk about the poster scene. I'm rocking my Trips shirt. This is from Emick from last year. I actually met Tony when we were up at the Dillon Amphitheater. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago for Green Sky Bluegrass when they dropped a Chuck Sperry. What's actually really funny was we were first in line. Tony and Tony Squared both had flown in from Vegas, and they were super cool. We met. We were very early in the line, started jiving, and it was actually, do you remember what happened with that chick at that show?
Is that the one where she showed up out of nowhere and we had been there for a while and she wasn't happy with us being in line and having a list going and kind of having something organized, and she told you to go get run over by a car?
Yeah, so what happened was she, another lovely entitled human being, she took her chair past all of us that were in line and plopped it right at the front. And she's like, well, I'm starting a new line. And we're going.
That's not how any of this shit works.
Well, and it wasn't where I was the loudmouth that I am. And I was like, well, actually, the line starts back there. So you can go back there. And she had essentially told me to get fucked. And yes, what she said was, I hope you die in a car accident on the way home. Like, super special. First time I had ever had that thrown on me. So that was super fun. That scene was wild. Anything with a Sperry is crazy. And that's why I have Mr. Sipich on this week, because Tony is well-versed in the game. He is a Las Vegas resident. You guys know about my last-minute escapades out to Vegas. Tony was actually a sweetheart and let me come and stay at his house with my kids with 14 hours notice. So we want to talk a little bit about the Sphere. We want to talk about Sperry. We want to talk about posters. And we wanted to bring in somebody that knows more about that scene than we do. And so, Tony, let's just kind of start with talking about all right, who are you? When did you start getting into posters? How did that start to come along?
So, just another music fan. Ultimately, I mean, it was kind of a cart of the horse situation. I'd say I started going to concerts when I was 14. I'm 48 now, so most of my life. Grew up in Vegas, so had the advantage of a lot of shows coming through. So Dave Matthews Band would be the cart that started the horse. And so I remember going to shows and probably early 2000s when I actually started noticing posters and wanting to buy posters. And there was a Big Goose show in Vegas with Dave Matthews and Dave and Tim. Dave and Tim Reynolds did a tour. And so just early 2000, I started buying posters, but I didn't have any idea on quote the value of them. And then I remember Spoosta did a Dave print and I wanted it. And somebody said, well, that's a Spoosta. And if you tell me I can't have something, then that's really the wrong thing to do. So somebody told me I couldn't have a print, and that's when.
Do you remember what was on that Spoosta?
Yeah, it was a Spoosta Caravan, and it really wasn't anything special.
But it stood out in your eyes. It was something different.
It was something different, and it was like I said, it was just something I wanted. And so from there, it was James Eads. And James Eads was actually the artist that I found the connection with. And honestly, that's for me what took me into the art community. And that's what this is for me, is a community. It's not just the art, it's the community around the art. Going into a poster line for 8-10 hours sometimes, before a show is like tailgating. It's a form of poster tailgating. It's not just, buying a poster. It's getting to know everybody like we did this weekend for Dave Matthews. You see different people.
It's putting in the work, right?
You got to be careful with that shit, though, because sometimes you'll meet somebody in a poster line, and then you'll fast forward a year and you're doing a podcast with them.
Well, that is very true. Well, guess what? Or he comes in and visits, and I'm like, "Hey, bro, we're gonna do a
talk to me and my other dumb friends. It'll be great."
So for all of you that are out there that know me, if I think you are interesting in any sense,
he's gonna find you.
I will find you, and hopefully, I get you into this dungy basement, and we can talk about something that excites you. And so, yes, you're right. So I went to go see Tony in Vegas for the Sphere for my birthday. And he's like, oh, bro, I'm coming down for Dave Matthews at Fiddler's, and Trips is the same weekend. And I was like, dude, come stay at my house. You can come hang out, crash in my guest bedroom. Let's get shit done. And so Tony came out here, and that's what happened. Was we met up there at Dillon. We connected. It was cold. It was rainy. Yeah, it was not an easy poster line to be in. And then the chaos that comes with Chuck Sperry's. And so for some of you guys that don't know who Chuck Sperry is, he is a very well-known poster artist. He has a very particular style. And a lot of them are, well, here, let me shut the fuck up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you think Chuck's style is and kind of what that has looked like over the years?
Chuck comes from San Francisco Bay Area, so his style is kind of modeled toward the old psychedelic 60s era. Early on, he kind of had a more of a rough and tumble style, but now he's focused in on muses, Greek muses. So everything is going to be a beautiful female Greek muse, and from that, like that.
I would never actually get this poster because this is one of the most sought after Chucks, right?
And I was actually at that show on that day when that was released. So I'll give you a little insight on how that went down. And so from that, Chuck's one of those guys that, once again, if you meet him, not only do you love his art, you love him. And so it makes you love his art more, because when you go home or you go to your office or you go wherever down to this dungeon, and you see that artwork, you think about the show you were at. You think about chatting with Chuck and your buddies, and messaging everybody that loves that artwork and trading with them. And so it's not just, like I said, not just the art; it's the community that comes around. And so let's go back to Trips 2017 when that very coveted.
And what is her name?
Agape, which is love.
Yeah.
But she didn't have a name that day. She was just the show poster for that day. And so,
but he names all of his girls, right?
After Greek muses.
Yeah. So we don't know the day of, and we're like, oh, I wonder what this will be named. And then she was 2017, and she became Agape.
She became Agape.
And would you say that she is one of the most sought after Chuck Sperry's?
I'd say in the top 5.
Okay.
For sure.
If I were gonna buy that, what would it cost me? Like if I was gonna get aftermarket price.
Aftermarket price for the print, you're talking $2,000, and then we'll talk about Chuck's wood panels, which is a whole nother rabbit hole that people go down, and you could be talking anywhere in the $6,000 to $8,000 value, and that's just based on when the economy's hot. During COVID, when people were stuck in their house, there was nowhere to go. They had checks coming in the mail that they didn't know what
That COVID cash, baby.
They had that COVID cash.
Give it to me.
You know, and there were a lot of people were remodeling because they were stuck in their house. Art was a huge thing, and so that's when guys like Chuck and Mark Spusta and other artists that we kind of see on a daily basis in the poster scene really took off. And then Facebook, what were people doing when they were stuck in their house 24 hours a day?
Doom scrolling.
Yeah, they were just stuck on social media. So a lot of these guys got discovered that way too as well.
So let's go back to 2017 Trips. Where was that at? Was it San Francisco?
So Trips is a poster show that they have annually in San Francisco.
And what does it stand for? It's TRPS.
TRPS stands for the Rock Poster Society. It's a group of artists that started a kind of little society or little organization of artists up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they have several shows a year, the main one being at Golden Gate Park, somewhere in mid-October every year. Started kind of real ragtag and small, and I'm pretty sure most people wish it was still that way. But now it has grown into
it's fucking chaos. Let's be real.
A full day.
Like how big of a show? Like if we're talking like attendance numbers.
Attendance wise, you're probably looking at throughout the whole day 1,000 people. But it's in a hall. It's in a small little hall in Golden Gate Park that probably only fits at its peak probably 300. So,
that sounds great.
Right.
But let's be honest. So I came out to because I had met Tony a couple years ago, and he's like, "Oh, are you going to come out to Trips in San Francisco?" And it just so happened to be that I was working in California at that time, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to be an hour and a half away from San Francisco over Trips weekend." And he's like, "Bro, you better get there early." So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I literally left the house that I was staying at, and I drove to downtown San Francisco to Golden Gate Park. This motherfucker is sitting there in one of those soccer pop-up hoods with the zip up and his chair. He's got a blanket. He's seasoned veteran. I show up in shorts and Birkenstocks with nothing else. Right?
You did the same thing when we went to get tickets for
Dude, that's who I am. Okay.
Yeah,
it's uniform.
Howling wind,
Also,
20 degrees. Cody's over here in his fucking shorts.
That's just what's up. So then I got there, and what was dope and what was different from Trips for me from some of this other stuff was there was a little black book, right? And so there was somebody at the front of the line that when you got there, and even me being there at 2:30 in the morning before a 10 o'clock open, right? I think I was like 22nd in line or 23rd in line.
For sure.
And Tony's like, "Hey, you need to stay here because how does it work? Like once you get on, and I was number 23, are they like auditing? Because I know I've bitched about in like the Billy scene, they try to do lists, but then that list is usually like flooded with people's friends and they're not actually waiting in line. So can you explain a little bit of the difference of how that worked at Trips?"
So obviously there's no perfect system, but something like what we do for Trips is you'll throw your name on a list and you could be on there as early as 24 hours before. So for that person, obviously they're going to want to go home and you're back to their hotel, shower, take a shit, eat. And so what we do is, we just kind of ask for some decorum. You're not going to be gone for 12 hours and stay on that list. So every couple of hours, we'll just go through the list, run through the names, and a friend will be like, "Hey, Cody just ran to the hotel," or "Shay just ran to go get something to eat." And everybody kind of keeps track of everybody. But if there's a guy or a gal that hasn't been there for 6 hours, or if it's your buddy that hasn't been around, you're going to get crossed off the list. And everybody kind of keeps track of everybody. And what that really keeps from is, like he said, it keeps somebody from just throwing their name on a list and leaving. And it keeps
an empty fucking chair.
Right, of course. Nobody likes an empty chair. And it happens, and it does happen. And it keeps people from feeling like they're stuck there. No, it's just not practical to sit anywhere for 24 hours. So Trips is a lottery. Somebody's watching this right now, probably listening, and saying, "These assholes, why would they have to sit there for 24 hours for the lottery?" Yes, it's a lottery, but still, they only pass out upwards of 30 tickets for each artist. So there'll be a lottery for Sperry, Spusta, and Emick, assuming Emick is at the show that year. And what they do is they take and allow you to pick one artist.
Yep.
And then you reach your hand into a bucket or an envelope and pull out a number, 1 through 30, or it used to be 1 through 20, 1 through 15 when there was less people. And so then you pick your number and then you go to that booth and line up according to that number. So if there's only 30 numbers per artist and 91 people in line, the 91st person doesn't even have an opportunity to grab a lottery number.
And so just so you understand, Shay, there's a list that keeps your spot, but that's only keeping your spot to then get in the lottery. So if you're number one on the list, that doesn't mean you're number one in one of those 330 lottery spots.
I've seen a guy, number one, spend 24 hours there, still get last. And it doesn't feel good.
That's
no,
the game,
but
though,
also
baby.
it starts to balance the playing field, right? Because like you have to be there early to even get a chance to pull a ticket to see where you're going to be at, right? And so like it was really interesting for me because oftentimes we're like fighting the line and it's empty chairs, or there's one person from a group that then has fucking 8 homies roll through in the very last minute. And we even saw this at Dave Matthews, right? There's all sorts of different types of people in the poster line, whether it's the chat and cutter or the lurker, right? There's always that dude like right before they start to open the gate. There's somebody that's just off to the side, just waiting. And then when that mad dash happens, that motherfucker jumps in and tries to take a spot.
Concession people, they're not getting paid to play security, nor do I expect them to. So, with the crowd mentality, and in this day and age, nobody wants to speak up, and so sometimes you
Cody
hope that,
does.
Exactly. Sometimes you
Cody will.
Well, and that's why Tony was all about it, because he's like, bro, I don't have to
Hey.
do this. This loudmouth motherfucker is just going to come and run his mouth. And Sheriff Nottingham, here I come, bro.
Yeah, I'm a little more passive than aggressive.
We got to get you a badge, bro.
I'm definitely loud, and I'm an energy matcher, right? So like, if you're cool and chill, then I'll be cool and chill, and I'll explain what the hell is going on. But if you want to come with some bullshit, then I will match your bullshit
100%.
And nobody's going to feel comfortable. And what I tell people is like, if you can sit in line and take my heckling, because I will not let it stop, right? If you think that you can, like, oh, hey, bro, I haven't seen you for the last 6 hours. It must have been, you look really clean. And like at Dylan, you look really dry and warm. That must be awesome. Oh, but I'm sure you want to get the same poster that all of us have been waiting here all day for, right? And like the entitlement in this scene is real. And so like balancing some of that is a bitch. Now, Tony just said, you're only getting 90 spots for these 3 different artists. And so there's a lot of sought after, and a lot of the times it's foils. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not a huge foil collector, but there are lots of people are, because all of these posters are normally a limited run. And then a foil is even more limited. So it's more sought after, and it's a basic rules of supply and demand, right? And for me, what you start to see is there's people that come in and they take that opportunity to make as much money off of this as possible. And then there's people that are collectors that are like, wait, what the fuck? And what I think is there's a lot of people that try to push or portray this negative characteristics on some of the people like myself or like Tony that does some of this stuff, that waits in line, and they're like, oh, fuck you guys. And they're like, oh, you're just doing this for whatever. But I know for a fact that, Tony, you live in Vegas. You just did how many shows at Dead & Co. at the Sphere?
Attended 13.
And how many of those 13 tickets did you buy, you fucking dickhead?
Not a one.
Yes.
You son of a bitch. I love it.
I was blessed with 13 miracles. 14 to be technical, but I miracled my miracle.
Oh, okay.
And wait, let's be real. Who did you miracle that miracle to?
One of the merch people.
So he's
That's how it
greasing the
goes,
wheels,
though.
right? But so let's be smart about this. So Tony was actually, people that couldn't get to Vegas or had certain dates or liked certain posters, what they would then do is reach out to this guy. And even like Marianne Asta, she's like, oh, hey, I really want this. And guess what would happen? This dude would go put in the legwork, and he would help people get some of these sought-after posters. What I wanted to talk a little bit was about some of the community that you've built, right? There's arbitrary bullshit that happens in any scene, right? How do we battle some of that stuff? But then also, like, how are you doing these things? Because, like, for me, I'm a salty dickhead. And so I've been in a bunch of poster groups, and being a collector, I'm a junkie, right? Like, Even if, because people are like, oh, I don't collect posters to shows I don't go to. Well, fuck that. If it is a beautiful poster, I want that bitch. I may not even put it on my wall at one point, but I want it. I know that I want to have it, and so that I at least have that opportunity. And a lot of the times that I do that, I can throw in anywhere from $3 to $30 for a spot on what's called a waffle. So can you kind of explain like what that is and how that works? And then some of the things that we do to protect people from buying stuff like that so that they feel comfortable putting that out there, if that makes sense.
Educate me. I've never heard of the waffle.
I
don't know what that is.
Wait, hold on. What'd you say?
I don't know what the waffle is. I've never heard of this.
So that's I'll break it down for you today. A lot of things that you just referred to in one long drawn out sentence, I'll break down in parts. So it comes back to community. So in our community, we are collectors. And like I said, if you tell me I can't have something, I'm going to find a way to find it. And so one of the ways is we have these things called waffles. Waffles is kind of a semantic word for raffle, because if you say raffle too many times, it's almost like Beetlejuice. Yeah. Something will pop up that you don't want. So we don't say it. We just use the word waffle. And it sounds fun too.
Well, and then it's actually gotten so bad that they don't even call them waffles. Sometimes they'll call them Eggos, because like social media will pick up on these words and cues.
Algos, especially in PayPal. And that's what it's really for, is for PayPal and Venmo. We won't get into semantics of that. If you're not an adult enough to figure out the whys and the whats, then you probably ain't here for what we're dealing with.
Nobody wants to get in the money. I don't want to get shut. Okay, I'm good on that. Let's talk about the actual process.
Right. So one way to find a poster, and there's actually a lot of groups, waffle groups out there. There's waffle groups for posters. I've heard of bourbon waffle groups, pool cues, So, but for us, when we're talking about posters, we have a few poster waffle groups out there. For me, I admin one called Good People Prints. I didn't start the group, but I just kind of ended up taking it over. And it's it's a great community. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But there's several others. Billy Strings, how I met this guy, has its own poster group, and it rocks. I mean, probably one of your only ways, if not attending the show early, is to find a Billy Strings poster is through these groups. Except
I will shit on that group later, but I'm going to let him finish.
Well, that's why he's here. And so anyway, so Good People Prints. I'll go back to the group that I know best about, the one that I admin. So say a show happens on a Friday and you didn't want to go stand in line for 7 hours like we did for that foil.
Or you couldn't, right? Like some people have to work.
What I'm saying, you didn't or want to, or you couldn't. Like say in Vegas at the Sphere, it was 110 to 120 degrees on average every weekend for those shows. So to deal with any type of outside merch, it just wasn't happening physically for some people. And so I had no problem. I'm from there, so I had no problem going and setting up an outside canopy. This guy taught me.
That sounds like my personal hell, man. I can handle standing in the cold all fucking day. I don't have a problem with that. Rain, cold, snow, sleet, hail. As soon as it gets above, like, I don't know, those temperatures, I would just be like, nope, I don't need this poster.
Oh,
I can't fucking do it. I'm too sweaty and chubby.
For a poster for a pin, no way. So you come to our group, Good People Prints, and we have a couple different formats. The format that I really enjoy is the live draw. So it's what it sounds like. It's a live drawing on Facebook where you put your name in a bucket on a ticket. You see it, it goes in a bucket, you pay for it, and we call it spots. You pay for a spot, it's an entry into a game, and that game will win you a poster.
So let's just break it down into like easy numbers so that people can understand, right? So say there is a poster that is worth, I'm just going to do this so that the math makes sense, $360 on the market, right? Now you can sell 36 spots at $10 a spot, and you can buy one spot. And if your name is pulled, you win that $360 poster
for $10. It's showing up to your door. And so I see a lot of guys and gals out there that, they're doing it for the action. They just, they're somewhere in middle America and they just enjoy the poster action, and they plus one a lot for their favorite bands or their favorite artists. And then there's guys like me who I don't play hardly ever except for my top and search ofs. And so there's everything in between. And then go back to like he's talking about the scene and senses of entitlement. Entitlement really exists in not so much the scene, but different bands. And so, I kind of joke around all the time. Kind of top tier is Tool. So if you're looking for a Tool poster and you're playing for a Tool poster and you're playing in a Tool group, fuck, man, I feel sorry for you. I don't even go into those realms. And then from there, you're kind of going to go down into like the Billy groups. I tend to notice that's real hot right now. And then like Pearl Jam, just because that's ridiculous as far as prices. And it's always those Pearl Jam is always touring, and so it's always relevant. And then like Dave, from Dave Matthews, and then boom, 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 Dead and Company starts to kind of go down in there.
But not only is there groups from specific bands, there's also groups for specific artists.
And that's what I was saying. Like, so Tool, that's why it starts at the top, because Tool has Emic and a couple other top tier artists that fall under that belt. And so it's just anytime that you deal with Tool, you're dealing with just high dollar, high value. And anytime you come at anything with a lot of money, you're going to just deal with more money, more problems.
Well, so like, let's also give some of the people some resources, right? So like a hard thing to figure out is like, what is the quote unquote value of a print, right? And so like, I know myself that a lot of the times when I'm looking after something, the first place that I will go, which sounds terrible, but it's true, is go to eBay. And I'm
actually looking at my White Whale Billy Strings poster right now on eBay. It's $1,900.
Which one is it?
It's the let's see here. It's the Ryan Duggan poster from Colorado in 2018, where he did the Gothic, the Fox, and Memorial Hall. And it's nice. It's a street, and it has all the venues on it like it's one street, kind of an old-timey vibe. And it's real similar to the poster he did that is my baby, that is the Mishawaka Amphitheater poster when Billy played there. So
yeah, the one that you don't have fucking hung up behind you, you clown.
Yeah, I know. I should probably change it, but it just doesn't look good behind me. What you can't tell about the wall behind me, Cody, is it's actually curved, so it's hard to hang something there. But
quit making excuses, dickhead. Just hang it up while you film.
You know what I love about you? You are so supportive. It's the best.
but I mean, I'm a true friend, okay? I'm getting into a fault.
But yeah, that's but like even when it's listed for on eBay, like it's important to remember, like eBay, like things seems like, I saw this go for $5,000 on eBay. No, you saw it listed for $5,000 on eBay.
That's what I was going to say.
Big fucking difference.
Well, and so eBay is a good place to start. Another place that I look is espresso beans. It's not as great lately. It was something that I used a lot before when I was first starting to figure out the scene. Now it's these Facebook groups, right? Because if I go and I look at a waffle, I can see, okay, they're doing 36 spots at $10 for $360. What you have to understand is I don't want to call it easier, but it's probably more likely to fill with a bunch of smaller margins. So if I wanted to sell that $360 poster, I'd list it at like $330 or $325. And maybe there's a guy or a gal in that group that doesn't want to have to go against the odds of the waffle. Because I've actually seen people where they do a waffle, and depending on the value, they're like, fuck it, I'll buy it at that value. And they buy every single spot.
Oh, yeah. So for me, I'd say 98% of the things that you see me run aren't mine. I never touch the poster. I never see the poster. It's for people anonymously.
So are you brokering those deals then? So they like reach out to you and they're like, hey.
Reach out to me, and I don't touch the money. They take payments, they ship the posters, and I just take a little fee at the end for my time. More like a consulting.
For sure.
And so with that being said, if somebody messages me 9 times out of 10, they're not going to know whose poster it is. They're going to think it's mine. And so I'll also broker a buy it now situation.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I have no problem with that. And that happens very often.
And that's why for me to go back and shitting on this other group, I had a huge issue with one of these groups because they would post these waffles and things. And then what they would do is what I call delete and retreat. So they would delete any of the posts, any of the history. They weren't keeping a tally of who those winners were or what was going on. And it just seems super shady to me. And so when I reached out to the mods about, they're like, well, why are you fucking asking that? And I was like, well, why are you getting so defensive, right? Like, if there's nothing to hide, then why are we playing this game? And so I felt like it was shady and bullshit. And then all of a sudden I get kicked out of the group and I'm blocked. And so for me, like that was a telltale sign, and I will always say, fuck that group. But I also understand that there's different ways to do different things, right? And so what's dope about Tony is what I saw this dude before I'd ever met him. And so he's always smoking a dre. He's doing these live draws. He writes out, he's got the prettiest fucking handwriting too. And he writes out your name on these little slips of paper, fucking shows it to you, folds it, puts it in a Tupperware. And then he fucking shakes this bitch and he's pulling out winners, right? And for me, I felt like, okay, that was pretty fucking cool. Another way that I've seen some of these waffles done is I said 36 spots. There's a reason I said that. They call them a red ball, right? Where they will then allocate 1 through 36. And what it is they're doing the live draw based upon the Powerball drawings. So now instead of pulling a name, you're saying like, hey, my birthday's the 8th. I want to buy number 8 for $10. And then on the Powerball, if they pick the red ball, which is the Powerball, and it's number 8, then that's a winner. So there's different ways to do this. But what's also dope, Tony, is like you've had smaller ones. Like what was the festival that you just went to in Outside Lands? And so, of course, fucking there's a Sperry, so Tony knew about it. And he went and got there. But then there was also these smaller art prints. And I think you were doing 9 spots for $9. Yeah, dude, 9 spots for $9. It was this super dope little thing. And it's like, my wife spends more money on her coffee every day, right? And so then for me to be able to potentially like win, you didn't pull my fucking name, which is bullshit.
I wish I could pull everybody's.
No, that's a lie. Just mine. I don't give a shit. Selfish society. Just me. Okay? But there's different ways to do this, and there's different ways to like build these levels of trust and figuring out. The other thing is like trades, right? Like because this dude is essentially a poster broker, he knows like I message him all the time. I'm like, Tony, I'm searching. I'm searching for this. I want like my big ISO is a Mahalo. And I am too cheap to spend the fucking $800. And I feel like regs are going for like $600 now. And eventually I will just bite the bullet and fucking buy one. But most of the times what I like to do is trade my posters or the extra posters or ones that aren't up on my wall to then get other ones that I really like. And so being able to have him really helps this.
And so go back to that. So I've seen people enter the game or enter whatever you want to call this, the community, with zero ability, to afford a Sperry or some of these top tier, and trickle their way into their collection with a win here, a win there, and some people got golden horseshoes up their ass. And then next thing you know, they're trading for things that they want, and then next thing you know, their collections are becoming legitimate collections off a waffle win.
I joke all the time to my wife. I'm like, I can pay for our kids' college funds with my poster collection. And she's like, you're never going to fucking sell them. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But I could if I wanted to. Like, if I really wanted to,
Do you insure your posters?
What?
I talked to a guy in line at the Billy Fiddler show that he was older. He's been collecting posters since like the 80s or some shit. And he actually brought in an insurance broker to like assess his poster collection. And he has an insurance policy just for his posters.
Yeah, there's a few different, like say if you're a renter, there's like an easy way to do it as a renter. And how you set the value, go back to people come to sites like ours. I've literally bought stuff at a gallery, had the gallery owner hand me the items and tell me, Tony, now go set the market.
Nice. Well, and that's what I was going to say. So like I've used eBay, I've used Espresso Beans, and now going back to these resources, now I call Tony. I'm like, hey, bro, how much is this usually going for? Like, what does this cost? Because I don't want to get ripped off, right? And it's also trying to figure out what that balance is. Shay, how much time do we have? Because I have to reset my camera.
35:02 is where we're at.
Oh, so it fucking stopped. Damn it. That's why you were supposed to put a fucking alarm.
You didn't tell me what it was for.
Oh, well, it's for the camera because I can't plug it in.
Ah, yes. This is top shelf radio, guys. I love it.
Hey, fuck off. It's not radio, it's a podcast. And we're
whatever. Top Shelf
We're
Podcast.
fucking working on it, dickhead. I'm trying to
know.
master this technique.
Hey,
I don't
I
know
get it.
what
I get it.
what's going on most of the time.
People
Okay?
appreciate that it is authentic.
It is raw.
Dude,
Raw.
my dad loved talk radio growing up, like
Yeah.
super duper, like Rush Limbaugh. His license plate said Ditto Head.
Oh my god.
Very-
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh God, yeah. So I mean, if he would have loved just the podcast format.
Just bullshit,
He just
right?
loved to hear himself talk. To hear himself talk.
Well, and that's why I tell people, they're like, "Oh, and how do you like the podcast?" Blah blah. It's like, I don't give a fuck if anybody listens. I just like bullshitting with my homies, right?
Yup.
Like I'm talking about stuff that I love, and then like talking about posters, and then that's the other thing is like sharing some of the scene. And so like what I was talking about is watching Tony, smoking J's, helping people. There are so many fucking internet trolls and keyboard warriors that just shit on people.
Oh, I've been called scum. I've been called everything on this earth. I mean, I've been called scumbag for the stuff that I do here in the poster world. And I tell people, if you want to see scumbag shit, I'll show you. It ain't this.
Yeah. Well, and that's why for me, like when I first saw Tony, just like motherfuckers are pointing me out in the crowd, I'm like, oh, I fucking know that face. I know that dude. And just like people are, oh, fucking chair throw, blah, 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 whatever preconceived notion they have of me, it's like then they meet you and you're like, wait, you're a fucking real dude. And you're like actually legit. You're cool. I like you. And so I met Tony and Dylan and I was like, all this bullshit that people are saying wasn't true. And so that's why for me, like I wanted to, what's the reason for this? Right. So like, why are we in the poster scene? Why are we collecting? What are we doing? What we're doing? And I wanted to give an opportunity for you to be able to like tell your story, but also for us to like talk about this. Cause like I met this dude and he told me about giving back to nonprofits and some of the shit that you did. So tell a little bit more about who you are, right?
I mean, just me, man. This is Tony. Ultimately, like I said, I'm a guy that lives in Vegas. My day job, and a lot of people tell me to go get a real fucking job, which I ultimately ask, what is a real job? But I do have a real job. My real job is in cannabis.
He fucking smokes enough of it, so it makes sense.
Right. They say do what you love,
right?
And so
I
worked in cultivation initially in cannabis when it became medically legal in Nevada. I mean, I've always done something in cannabis ever since high school, you know, whether it's clandestine or not. But
Hustler.
I'm a hustler, exactly. But once it became legal, I saw the writing on the wall that I wasn't going to be able to do it illegally. And doing it legally and getting a paycheck and insurance and being able to, you know, tell something to my parents that I did, I was proud of. So yeah, I got into cultivation. I was a post-harvest manager for actually a Colorado-based company called M. Hardeen for several years. Cultivation is just another like form of production, and what I did was babysitting. And so I got into the retail side, and that's what I do now. I'm not currently working for a company because I travel doing this poster stuff, but at any given time I could jump back in and do that job. It's just I don't, because I travel doing posters and I love going to concerts.
And let's be real, this dude just bought a house off of the hustle. It was a bitch for him to go through.
Getting the loan wasn't easy, but
you just closed on your place what, a week or two ago?
Yeah, I closed on a condo in Las Vegas in Summerlin, which is probably one of the nicest areas in Las Vegas.
Hey man, congratulations! Like,
thank you. That's
a huge fucking thing. I know what that market's like out there. That's wild. It's real similar to here. It's very,
it was tough.
competitive.
It's probably not going to get any easier for anybody out there. But what I did was I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't listen to anybody tell me what I could or couldn't do. And whether it's posters or whether you're sitting there making little tchotchke things, you know, at home, it's all the same. It has nothing to do with, has nothing to do with the thing. It's the love of the thing.
And the community that you built, right? Because you spend a lot of time connecting with people. This motherfucker will answer questions, right? Like
I hear it all the time about the name I built for myself. It has nothing to do with me. It's everybody around me that's built the name up around me. I'm just me. And so I'm nobody at the end of the day without the community behind me. And so I thank everybody every day. I try to be as humble as I can. And it comes down to transparency. He's talking about that group earlier. So one of the reasons why I do write my name down, or do write all these tickets down individually, is because there was a group early on. We call them the Indiana Mafia. And what they were doing was they were printing out the tickets and they were pulling their buddies' names. Well, I figure if you see every name written out individually and you see your name and it's posted and there's pictures taken of it, and it's the same ticket that's posted, that's pulled out, and you see it.
Well, and you're doing everything live. There's no time in between. He starts a live video, he writes them out, folds them, drops them in, shakes. It's all one clear thing.
I live in Las Vegas. If my sleight of hand is that fucking good, believe me, I wouldn't be using it in posters. My buddy is the prop builder for Penn and Teller ever since we were out of high school.
Oh wow!
And so the stuff that it would take to be that good, and so these guys weren't that good. I mean, it's just a matter of time. And to go back to that, I'll be running a drawing. There will be 50 people watching. 3 of them are in the drawing. The other 47 people are there to watch me fuck up.
Yep.
There's always going to be somebody out there waiting for you to screw it up.
Like, fuck this guy. He folded this one different than the other one.
They're ready to call you out. And so for me, I'm not worried about me screwing up. And believe me, I do. And I fix those mistakes. I'm worried about the other guys doing this because ultimately it's going to fall on me. I'm the one that's going to get the messages and have to help fix the mistakes. And I'm just as good as anybody else that runs these. So that's kind of why we try to manage the community. I'm not a mayor or anything like that, but we do watch over all the other groups, and we know who's what. We know when anything shady is going down. Trust me. And it's just a matter of time before they get caught. Trust me. And it doesn't bode well for them.
And so, like, for me, what it is it's an opportunity, like you said, to chase after those holy grails. If you do want to get rid of a poster, it's not necessarily always flipping, right? Like, people be like, oh, you fucking flipper. Oh, this is what, and it's like, okay, well, first off, let's settle down on the flipper talk. But also, like, because I've seen you drop dead posters at essentially face plus $20 for shipping, right? Like, maybe a little bit more, like $20 or $25 for you to have the time in. But it's not like you're like some of these dudes that come in 5-10 times the value immediately right out the door, just trying to gouge for as much as you can, because maybe you can sell that poster once, but in your community, then they're only going to see you as that gouger, right? And so, like, trying to find that balance where you can still make some money. And that's why I've always told people, like, I respect the hustle. What I don't respect is the people that try to take advantage, try to pull the wool over your eyes. And I mean, there's shady shit in any scene. And so, like, I had never chased a Dave poster, but then this last weekend, Dave was here at Fiddler's, and it was fucking dope because it was a Quack and Slater dual poster, right? So, like, 2 of my favorite artists came together to make these posters. And you're like, fuck, that's pretty special. Well, now I had to go sit in this line of entitled fucking dickheads, right? And we got there, we were probably 6th and 7th in line when we got there early in the morning. And by the time that it had actually started, we're probably
20.
Yeah, it just kept going. The 3 people in front of us turned into 8 to 11.
This
right?
You called me from that line because originally we were supposed to record that day, and the conversation was more like you called me. I was about halfway to your house, and then you're like, "Hey, where are you at?" And I was like, I was like, "Well, I'm about halfway to your house. I'm 30 minutes in," and then the conversation was basically, "Oh man, you should turn around. We're not going to get out of this poster line." And then I could hear you like pull the phone away from your face and be like, "Oh man, you haven't been there all day. That's so funny that you're in front of me all of a sudden. I've been here since this morning. Who are you? Why did you get here?" It's just immediately talking shit, and it was amazing.
Dude, I am me, right? And like, it is what it is. And it was funny because so, like, at that one, like, the merch people, like Tony said, they're not paid to police the line. The venue, they don't give a fuck, right? So what's crazy is this really becomes like the Wild West where we're policing ourselves, right? And it's crazy because we've all talked about this. We've been in this merch game for 3 decades, and there still isn't a perfect process, right? And it's so convoluted and fucked up. Like, this old merch lady, she's sweet as can be, came out. First off, we had already been there since before lunchtime, and they're like, "Oh, maybe we'll start at 4, maybe earlier if we can get there." They didn't open until 5:15.
15.
Right? Which was fucked because doors were at 6 o'clock. So now you have a huge merch line for early merch, and then you have entry. So, like, if I have a GA ticket for Pit and Fiddlers is a fucking disaster.
Even lawn.
Yeah. Well, to get a good spot on lawn, right? So now I'm sitting in what I thought was an early merch line to like get my shit, put it in my car, not have to roll it, put it in a tube, can get it back in safety and not carry it around all night, right? Drop it out. Well, now, because they had waited so long, now this fucking merch line, we got it, and then it starts to blend with the other line.
With the get into the fucking show line.
And it just became a shit show. And so this sweet old merch lady who's like trying to be helpful and she like elected some kid, and she's like, okay, you're going to be the liaison or whatever between merch and the rest of us wooks. And this kid, what's funny is we were with Jared. What up, Jared? Jared had sold this dude a poster 3 years ago. It was his first poster. First time this kid had ever gone. And now he's full-blown book mode doing tour on daddy's credit card, right? But like, he had no idea how to quote unquote police the line. He was getting information from this old lady, and then he wasn't sharing it with the rest of the group.
Whispering it.
Yeah. Or he would come and snipe pictures because we didn't know that there was like what was it? There was a print for the run as well as that Slater Quack print. And so like,
and we didn't know there was even going to be foils at the trailer.
Well, they had been saying like there are no foils. So that's why when there was that group getting bigger and bigger in front of me, I was going, well, I don't give a fuck. There's no foils. We're all going to get a regular anyways. What does it really matter? Well, then all of a sudden they're like, hey, there are going to be foils out here. Well, now the people that are in front of you really fucking matter because you could lose your opportunity to get it. The other thing that fucking happens other than the chat and cutters and the lurkers is I'm not here to buy a poster guy or gal.
You liar.
But well, also
here to buy a
you because you are a liar. But think about this: even if they're not buying a poster and they're in front of you, they're now slowing down the process to get out, right? So like, I have to sit there and wait for someone to look at 17 different fucking t-shirts, yes, and just like cycle through. And it's like, well, no, I put in my fucking time. So if you don't want to, now I'll also be honest, like I am a veteran of the line. But I have done what some people would see like as shady. I will come and find that person that says, hey, I'm not buying a poster, I'm buying a shirt. And what I will do is say, I'll buy your shirt. Buy me a fucking poster. So now instead of waiting in line, I'll give them the 30 or 60 bucks for their shirt or their sweatshirt. And they put in the time for me because they're not buying a poster for me to get one. I've done that a handful of times. It doesn't always go over well, but it fucking works. It's effective. For that person, they're like, well, fuck, why wouldn't I do this? I'm getting free merch. And for me, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm getting a poster, right? And so it's kind of convoluted what happens in the scene and all this monotony and bullshit that happens. And that's why, like, I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to talk about, like, what do you think, between you guys, what do you think would be a gold standard of how to run these merch lines? Or what do you think, like, because what I love is, so trips we just talked about, I cut my teeth on widespread, but then I also have spent over a decade going to Telluride and doing the tarp run. And for the tarp run, I spend thousands of dollars for my wife and kids to sleep at a house because now it's too cold to camp. And my fat ass lays in line under my tarp and I sleep in line. Because from 5 to 8 a.m., someone from the festival can come through and they come with laminated numbers. Now, it's not a raffle. It is a laminated number. So the earlier there, the lower your number is. The lowest I've ever gotten was number 7. Now, when I first started, I would get in like the 500th because I'd be camping and then I'd be like, oh, fuck, I got to wake up and go to the tarp line. And it's fucked, right? And I'm not getting anything other than a spot in that. But I really like that because it gets rid of the empty chairs, because if you're not there to take your number, you don't get a fucking number, which is huge. Because so often we see some of these groups that come in and flood. Like there was another dude that came and like right before it was supposed to open, there were some chicks that showed up. And everyone's like hemming and hawing. They're like, well, what the fuck? You haven't been here. Now, luckily, it didn't turn into a thing, and those ladies ended up going to the back of the line. But that shit happens all the fucking time. So
What
for
is
you
the
guys,
poster line like at Telluride compared to? Because I know the tarp line, and I've been all about that. And just for disclosure's sake, the only time I've ever been to Telluride was the 50th, and one of my best friends has been
wait,
volunteering
you
in the
were
merch
there and
booth.
we didn't hang out?
I didn't know you yet.
You should have.
I'm sorry. I don't. Time is linear. That's how it works, bro. But
Okay. Well,
the only time I've ever done Telluride, one of my best friends has been volunteering in the merch booth for 15 years. So he just texted me, "What do you want? I'll set it aside." I didn't have to do shit, and I got that limited one from last year.
so if you remember that, so they're smart at Telluride. They have a bunch of different variations. The
Yeah.
limited or the exclusive one was the AJ Mass Day 50th anniversary.
Yeah, I've got that.
And yeah, I got it too because my ass was sleeping in line to make sure that I got it. Now, what sucks
I woke up
is,
at like noon that day. It was great.
well, dude, fuck you. I brought a buddy with me because normally what happens is I'll wait in line. I'll spend all night in line getting my number. And then once I have my number, I'll give it to what we call a runner. My fat ass does not need to be running to drop a tarp. So what I'll do is, hey, you skinny fuck that's sleeping at the house, wake up. 10 o'clock is the running of the tarps. Take my number. Go get us a spot. And what normally
Teamwork
happens
makes
is,
the fucking dream work, guys. I cannot stress that enough.
I am still looking for a video of the last year that I ran was 49, and big surprise, I was in Birkenstocks, and the front of my Birkenstock folded, and it was literally like a slow-mo, like totally fucking pack shit. Eat it and just like pop up so quick and just fucking go. But there are so many motherfuckers taking photos and videos. I was looking all over the internet to be like, which asshole caught me in that moment? But so when it comes to the poster line and those exclusive ones, a lot of the times people are so focused on chasing a tarp spot that if you get a secondary number, I go to the poster line. So what I'll do is send somebody like Nicole gets up early with the girls. She'll come and bring me coffee because, like I said, you don't know if it's 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So the girls will get up early. I'll say, hey, bring me something warm to drink. Go get in line. And then I'll go hit the poster line from there because most of the mad dash is to drop tarps, put shade tents up or whatever it is. And then I'll go. But those exclusive ones, especially the 50th, like, thank God I am fucking loud and made enough friends because my number was way too high and I would have never gotten it. But what happened was a buddy was in there and they're like, hey, do you want one? And I was like, fuck yes, please. And so I was able to get it not waking up at noon. But Telluride can be a different breed. And like every festival is different. Every scene is different, right? But what's funny is the same bullshit happens at every fucking different scene.
So Chuck had a show one time at his hangar. It was an open house. So literally at the studio where he prints his stuff. This was several years ago. And it was going to be a lottery. And people still lined up at midnight for a 10 a.m. show. And so what they did was about 15 minutes before before they were going to let us in, the guy came out and said, hey, I'm going to come out with a bucket and you guys could pick numbers. And he counted us. So pretty, not a lot of downtime. Everybody, you had to be there. And he ran through and everybody picked their number. And that was one of those ones where the guy up front that had been there the longest got the last. So there was a kid there that wanted something. He thought he wanted something and he didn't know it was inside. He speculated. So he paid $2,000 for the number 2.
So he bought up.
He bought up. He paid $2,000 for the guy who picked number 2.
Must be nice.
What he thought he was going to get inside for wasn't there. There was a Sperry panel he wanted, and it wasn't there.
Oh, fuck. So he paid $2,000 for an opportunity
to buy something that wasn't.
So let's talk about the panels, right? So like we showed this. So this is the Agape. If you look at it, it has trips above the top. Can you talk about the wood panels and what the difference is and what's working with that?
So Sperry does when he does an image for a gig print, he'll isolate the image, the muse, and put that on. It used to be oak. Now I think it is. Don't quote me, but I do not know. It used to be an oak panel. We still call it oak panel just for conversation's sake. So he puts this image on an oak panel. He says he uses UV ink, so you don't have to frame it out. It comes just with a basic,
Protected.
basic black frame around it, so you don't put glass on it. And it is one of his most highly coveted, most sought after mediums. And from that, I think that is actually what made him go from big to huge. And the panel,
and they call them art prints, right? Because now it's not a show poster because they're
Correct.
removing the dates, they're removing the name of the poster. It is now just the art of that poster, and then he's putting them on a different medium. It's not paper anymore, like you said. It's a big wood panel.
right? And for a lot of Sperry collectors, that is all they collect. You know, they're not widespread or Dave Matthews fans, so why would they
Give a shit about having a widespread
right.
poster.
So this is all they want. And rarely does he just put out a muse on paper. Once in a while. So your best opportunity is a couple times a year at a gallery show or one of his shows that he puts out these panels. And they used to go for $500, $700.
And that's off the bat, right? Like you're buying it.
Starting price now is $25 to $27.50.
And do you think that was because like some of these panels, they would buy them for $500 and sell them for like $3, $6, $8 depending on I mean, I don't even want to quote it. What is the most that you've seen one of those panels go for?
Oh, $12,000. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
just
Dude, we thought the fucking tie-dye kid with the one shirt, what was it? $1,300?
$1,300, yeah. And let's be clear, that shit was fire.
Oh no,
But
definitely. 1,000%.
damn.
These fairy prints are fucking beautiful, but what was the $12,000?
that would be like Agape was going for $9,000 to $10,000 in its height, but just actually, I apologize, I just forgot about it. Worlds Within went for $15,000.
Jesus.
4 months ago in New York at the Harmon Projects.
Oh wow. Okay, so let's talk about some of that. So there's Harmon Project. Because also let me talk about this. I have put in for Chuck Sperry's EQL fucking raffle or whatever for a chance to buy. So what Chuck does now is he releases his prints at the show or at the gallery or whatever it may
I'm
be.
gonna let you know right now that equal is bullshit.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna let you know. I've seen it a couple of times. I've seen artists say, comment now if you want your equal optimized. I've personally had my equal. I've hit equal drops more than once on artists, so I know.
You want to know how many times I've hit a fucking equal?
So I know just from my.
And here's what's cute: when you lose, they're like,
silver lining.
Hey, you didn't win, but guess what? We're gonna give you some fake points to make you feel better. And I probably have a fucking million of those things because I have literally never won a single fucking raffle.
So all equal is, and you're gonna appreciate this, is data.
Yeah.
All it shows is the artist, the potential for their reach. Because when you join an equal drop, you prepay. You show that, hey, not only do I want an opportunity to buy this, but if I do win the opportunity to buy this, you're going to take the money from me without me confirming.
You're giving them your card info as you're putting in for your raffle ticket or equal ticket, right? So it's like, and what's dope is to give you the warm and fuzzies, he'll have different foil variations, like a black and all this stuff.
And Sperry's not the only one. We're just
no.
Example.
And all equal is bullshit because I've never won one on any of them, right? But you go in and you get one per, right? One entry per, and then you put in your card in. You can only win one. I've never had that luxury, but he's right. It's pulling your payment the second you essentially win that equal raffle.
And then if you don't win, like I said, it's still pulling all the data. It's showing that all that can be shared with other artists, other advertising entities that focus on what we do. And so really, honestly, the value in it is just beyond what we're doing. So for artists, there's a lot of incentive for them to use equal, and it really just wipes their hand clean of the bullshit because they say, hey, I don't control that. And so I understand why they use it, but for us, we like to control. We like to be able to think we have some control on a drop and sitting there an F5 in. And
I was the king of reload, right? And then like a random drop, whether it was a pin drop or art drops. And now, like, you're right. These people, what they'll do is like, hey, on 500th comment, I'll reveal the next poster. All they're doing is because now they can go to whatever band or whoever they're working with and say, look at all this engagement that I've got. Look at how much demand we have for this. And then that allows, and they should make their fucking money, right? And that's the fucked up thing is I feel like oftentimes, so these poster artists, they get paid by the band or by the venue to make a poster. Then they're not making the ones that are money off of the ones that are sold on site. What they make money off of is the flat fee that they get paid to make it, and then off their artist prints, right? And a lot of the times they're now like, oh, okay, well, I'm selling this print for $75, and then somebody else is fucking selling it for $750, right? And so like trips this weekend. Another one of my insert shows, and in case anybody is fucking listening, Mahalo's number one. My second is the Biffle Bertha from Folsom Field last July. And what's dope now is these artists have started to figure it out. So instead of selling it for what you could normally pick it up for at the show for $75 or $50 for regular, whatever it is, now they're selling them close to what the flipper value is, right? And so now the artist is actually making $300 off their print. And I don't mind that at all, because I feel like these artists deserve to make money. The bands are making money off of their popularity. Why not them do it too, right?
So when I was at Trips this weekend, a buddy hit me up and sent me a picture of a Billy Strings poster that he was in search of. It was the one with the butterflies. Hannah was her name.
Yeah, Moorhead, Minnesota. I have that poster.
There we go. And so I go to her booth and it was up there. And I take a picture, and he asked me how much. So I asked her how much. And she has no clue how much she wants to charge for this thing. So she looks at her buddy.
It's like you're in fucking Mexico going to the marketplace, and they're like,
partner, she said, you know what? It's one of the ones that put us on the map. And I didn't really understand how APs worked. So we only had 15 of those printed up as APs.
She said,
poor girl. And so she's like, I only got 1 or 2 of those left. Yeah, I'm thinking between 400 and 500. So obviously, in that conversation, you just heard starving art, not literally starving artists, but you just heard the potential of, you just heard
the demand, right?
You heard that not only potential of demand, but you just heard a lot of things that she could have been educated on at the time about APs, how they work. She should have been getting APs from the get-go, maybe 50, variants of foil, all those run. NC Winters, I'm going to use it as an example. NC Winters, when he does a print, his printer for him, and I can't speak for personally on the exact run, but his printer, what they would do was print up several different variations on all the foils, so Winters can decide what he wanted to run.
Nice.
So then what would end up happening is at the end, he'd sweep these all off the table and put them in a file. So what happened one time, there was a Primus run where a lot of stuff got damaged in the shipping. So Winters innocently pulled out all these APs. They weren't really true APs. They were all the samples and stuff. And people shit on him because they're like, well, we didn't know that these existed. And he was trying to fix a mistake.
But that's what's crazy. If the fucking poster artists don't know how it works or what's going on with demand and value and like the limited amount of numbers, think about some of these like early poster collectors that literally have no fucking clue. There's some people that don't even know like what an artist print is or how that works and like how to go and get some of these things.
So there is actually a formula. Okay, so say we got 100 posters in a run. 80 are going to be 80% goes to the actual run.
Yeah.
10% are going to be printer proofs, which are saved for mistakes or whatever.
Yeah, so if something gets damaged on delivery, they can replace it or whatever it may be.
And then the other 10% go to APs. That's not an exact number, but it's something like
there's a breakdown.
There's a breakdown.
And what I've heard is there's actually a breakdown, and just to know, like, so Fiddlers, it's 17,000 people capacity. And then it's usually 10% of the capacity is the amount of posters that you can make.
That would make sense.
So then, because what was the run of the regs of the Slater? It was like 1,500, right?
Plus a couple, like 300.
Yes, so and then there was 300 on the foils. So then that's about 1,800, which is 10% of that. But then what's crazy is like now the artist is limited even more so to like 50 or 100 because they can't go print 250 of these, right? And then also the market is flooded because now there's fucking 1,500 of these things already.
So, which is a great segue into the Spear and Denning Company.
Yeah, and that's where it's real because like the dead has come, and I mean, what's sad is as beautiful as the art is for Dead and Co, they saturate their market with so many posters that
I was gonna ask because, like, you know, I don't, you know, I don't. I have never been to a
we
Dead
know
Post
you
show.
don't like the Grateful
Yeah,
Dead.
yeah.
Okay,
Whatever. It's America. I'm free to
hey,
do
hold
whatever I
on.
want.
Why don't you say what you said, okay? Because he's somewhat on your side.
Yeah. Before we were recording, we bonded on this. What did you say earlier?
I said they're the best worst band ever.
That's like that Hard
both
Times
you
article
guys,
of
okay?
like we've ranked all the Grateful Dead albums and they're all last. Like, but no, like seriously, like it's I you know, as someone who's never been in the Grateful Dead scene specifically, it seems like they're like the Dead and Co posters. There's just so fucking many of them.
Well, and that's why I think that they really saturate it. But that's what sucks is like you see some of these dope artists that make this beautiful art because it's not like some of these artists where they're not paying artists for beautiful prints. What they're doing is they're paying high-end artists to make these beautiful prints, but then they're flooding the market with so many of them that then when the artist is trying to drop their artist prints or the APs, they can't get rid of them because there's already so many in the marketplace. And I remember talking to you about this, Tony, and you're like, hey, they started to catch on. Some of the artists were literally dropping their APs the same
day of the show, because they knew Dead and Company would drop the whole weekend run on Sunday. So they had no chance of anything selling after that Sunday.
Yep.
And so literally the artists were getting hip to it and dropping it day of the show.
And so that's where it's hard. And like the Dead, I mean, for this Sphere run, it was 30 shows.
30 shows over 10. Actually, you know what? If this was a Jeopardy question, it's 31 shows because there was one private show that Hewlett Packard did on Tuesday.
Which also, have you seen that print for the Hewlett Packard show?
Haven't.
It's fucking dope. It is a computer screen with like the Mr. Saturday Night Skeleton being blasted with an image from. It's fucking sweet, and I would
want it now. I haven't seen it, but I fucking want it.
Yeah, now Tony's gonna go find 2 of them, not 3 because fuck that guy, but 2 is good. But what's crazy is like then it loses some of the value and some of the things that is happening, and like other people will say, well, what the fuck matters? Who cares? They're getting more prints out into the hands of fans or whatever. And that's where it's like it's a balance. And yes, I want people to be able to get posters, but I also feel like you're not fucking the fans here. You're fucking the artists that are making that art for you by flooding it with so much bullshit that then they're not getting the payday that they deserve. And they're going into this thinking like, oh fuck, I'm making a Dead and Co poster. Like this is going to be fucking amazing.
And it's not only, you know what, we'll go back to it's not only the payday. Some of the quality suffered this summer as a result. They weren't worried so much about the printing quality. And
I'll put them on blast. I don't give a fuck. I'm the loudmouth. Last weekend that I'm there, they did a special print for the weekend run. And it was like an airplane with these Jerry Bears getting up onto it. And what happened was these foils were literally, they were printed on such a stiff material that the second, because the merch ladies and guys were really good. They're saying, hey, here's how you reverse foil. Here's craft paper. Do this. They wanted to protect you. But with that particular print, it was nearly fucking impossible to roll that thing without it cracking, flaking, and all sorts of shit happening. And so what's funny is one of my homies reached out to me because he had seen me. I did that stupid spooning video in that Chuck Sperry group a couple years ago because at Sperry in Green Sky and Dillon, some fucking clown had actually dropped a box of these posters. So it's what we call a soft corner. And so they had dinged the upper right corner of literally every single print in the box. So I went back and I showed people how you can spoon and clear some of that up. Now on a foil, it's much different. So this dude, Shane from Wisconsin, who also sent me 8 pounds of cheese curds. Thank you, Shane. Made me a little fatter. But he reached out to me and he's like, bro, what do I do here? So I said, hey man, I actually saw a story about this in one of the dead groups. Let's connect you guys. Let's start figuring out what you can do. So they got together. We found out who the artist was. Of course, the artist is going, hey man, I just designed it. I didn't print shit. So then we found out who the printer was. The printer was literally ghosting these guys, and they were sending 3 to 5 emails. And there was a group of them because it was so obvious and it happened to so many people that there was 10 or 12 of them that are trying to get this fixed. And eventually what happened was they got a response. Shane got one response. And then they're like, well, send us pictures, send us this, blah, blah, blah. He had everything. He sent them everything. And these weren't cheap. I think they were what, $200 bucks, $250 for the foils, right? And he was like, oh, hey, here's what's going on. And then they ghosted him. And I was like, bro, don't stop. Do not stop. And what was great was last week he messaged me and he's like, hey, bro, I want to thank you so much for sending me in the right direction. They're sending them new posters.
Reprinting. And actually, I just saw the artist he printed today. He posted a thing today or this weekend. The original concept of that poster and how it came to light, and he's kind of taking a little responsibility.
Nice.
Well. Yeah.
Well, and that's good, but that's the problem is for us in this like self-policed society and community, we need to band together. We are stronger together and understanding, communicating, and not to be fucking dicks. And like, it's not like I gorilla gripped my poster and fucked it up myself, right? Like this was
or like fucking folded it or some stupid shit.
I don't know what kind of fucking idiot would do that. Jesus Christ. That dude's a clown. But for me, it was nice because then there was enough voices where they finally fucking did something, right? And so for us, like in this poster society, I want us to come together and be a community. I want us to ask questions. So Tony, I would love for you to take these last couple of minutes, plug your group, plug what you can to get people. I don't want you guys fucking reaching out to me. I love you. I'm a poster collector. I am not Sheriff Nottingham to fix all these fucking problems. I can try to.
I'm not Sheriff Sipich.
And I can try to help you guys, but that's where it's like, I'll point you in the right direction. You can do some of the legwork. And I know, Tony, that you have been a great resource. Although you're not trying to be a sheriff, you know a lot of people, right? And you know a lot of information, and you've been a wealth of knowledge to me. So if you want to open that up, like what's your group? Where can people find you? What does that look like?
So I'm going to just kind of break it down. The word that we've used most in this podcast is community. And so these groups are exactly that. They're community. So the community that I kind of oversee is called Good People Prints. It is a private Facebook group. We like keeping a lot of these private because a lot of private things do occur in there, and we'll keep it that way. So to find your way towards that, just message me. If you're not already a friend of mine, I'll have to friend you and add you to it, or just have one of your friends add you. But that's
a request, sir.
There's several motherships out there. There's
fucking deny that Wookats. He doesn't even like the Grateful Dead.
There's another group called Good Art Group. That's kind of one of the bigger groups that I came into. But there's many out there. And really what it comes down to is you could build your own community around any artist that you like. It doesn't have to be a poster artist even. It could be, I guarantee you, all these poster artists started as local artists. So if you see an artist out there that you're really a fan of, whether it be a local graffiti artist, street artist, poster artist that's up and coming, you could latch your community onto them. And that's really what it comes down to. It just comes down to community protecting each other. And it just doesn't start with posters. It starts with your neighbors. It starts with all that. He mentioned Tony Squared earlier. Tony Squared is one of my best friends back in Vegas. I met the dude through a message I got from a buddy through an art group about a guy looking for a Dave Matthews ticket in Vegas, coincidentally. And the kid ended up being my neighbor, like 3 streets down, and huge art collector. I told the guy to come over, and fast forward almost 5 years later, and Tony Squared, because we call him Tony Squared because his name is Tony as well. And so Tony's one of my best friends. And it came out of...
He's good shit, too. He's good people.
He's a good cop to my bad cop. And
they are a dynamic fucking duo for sure.
So it's the community. You're gonna find out that you have a neighbor, you have a buddy at work that loves to do this. And so when you go to work, you guys could chat about Sperry's, just not just about your shitty boss. And so so art groups, Good People Prints, good art group. Really, there's a lot of every band that you like, whether it's Dave Matthews Band, Nickelback, Creed, or any of the other top 5 shitty bands out there. Grateful Dead, or Fish. I just named the top 5 shitty bands that I know. You will find a band-centric poster group.
I'm not posting this fucking podcast anymore. Fuck you guys.
You will find a band-centric poster group out there to your liking. And like I said, just kind of latch onto them. If there is a poster, and that's really what posters are, they take you back to that night, you know. And so if there's a poster out there that you're looking for from 1999, first Coachella, or that's one of my resumes is I did attend the first Coachella. And so
fucking humble brag. He waited an hour and 15 minutes to drop that one on us.
And so just shit like that. These are
cool guy alert.
You're gonna find stuff like that are these little weird poster groups. And so it's just,
but it's building community, right? And so like we in a couple of weeks, Shay and I will be doing a podcast like this from the poster line at Renewal.
Nice.
Oh, buddy, I am so excited to see how the logistics of that work, because I will not
it's gonna be
drinking in the morning.
But we'll get it. I practiced at the Mishawaka last week, and I fucked up enough that we're getting there. So we'll figure it out. Hopefully, we have Jared to fucking help produce and button push for us.
Oh, Jared would be great at that.
Yeah, dude, and that's why I locked
makes
in.
Amazing peanut butter sandwiches. So.
Oh, dude, without mushrooms. But no, and that's where it's like a community, right? And for us, like, I do tell people, like, it has been a double-edged sword with the Whoop famous bullshit, but I have met so many great people that have then like noticed me. They're like, bro, and like we have a real conversation and I connect with people, and like you schedule to meet up with them, you talk about your families, because like people see, like, once you follow me, you see like I'm a family man. I love my kids, I love my wife, but I also love posters and I love the scene. And so it's like a balance, and I think it gives us all an opportunity to connect on some real shit in a world where we're so like digital and social. The poster line is still someplace that you cannot replicate, right?
Oh, that is entertainment you literally cannot pay for. I was saying that the other day.
Yeah. And so what I'm telling you guys is, next time you're in a poster line, you see his bald ass, my big ass, or his ass, come say what's up. Talk to us. Introduce yourself.
If you ever need anything, don't hesitate.
You will recognize Cody in theory by his Packers hat, which is noticeably absent. What the fuck, Cody?
The Packers had purposely so they wouldn't recognize me.
Yeah, fucking 6 seconds in, 6 seconds into the Dave show, and he's right. I have literally stopped wearing my Packers hat because I've been
6'7".
No, 6'4", 6'3.25", but I like to pretend that I'm 6'4". But I don't. I'm not wearing my. It's not though, which is fucking awful because people are still like, oh, hey, I've seen him at Dave, at Sam Grissman, and Fort Collins. Like all weekend, I have not been wearing my hat to try to see, like, is it the yellow beacon? And it's like, no, it's my big wook ass. I'm not going to run away from it.
I would like to point you to that picture from Heady.net of you and me standing at the front of that show where we're a shoulder and a half above everybody else in the fucking show.
Yes.
That's why people see us.
Well, for sure. We're fucking towers, right? And let's be honest, we're both loud as fuck. So I always joke, people can usually hear me before they see me. I wear a lot of floral fucking aloha shirts. Like, I'm a loud dude all over the place. But also, like, I want to connect with real people. Don't come and fucking chop me up during a show. Like, come before, after, or during set break. And if set break, depending on the status of where I am, I might tell you to fuck off. I'll say it lovingly, but that's not what I'm there for. But if you see me in the line or after the show or in person, like, come say what's up. Let's talk. Let's be real.
Bring me a joint.
Yeah. You would have been so mad at Clay and I. You've been so mad at Clay and I at the Shaws that Saturday.
Oh, because you guys just chopped it up? Bro, I told you. His wife is a fucking grade A chomper.
Love you, buddy. Love you, Clay.
Yeah, I was giving her shit because I was like, hey, Diz, I went through your Facebook and I don't have a nice picture of you talking. And And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was
He
like,
showed me your text message thread where you were talking shit.
yeah, of course he did. Fuck you, Clay.
Yeah, buddy.
These two wooks met up on Saturday, knew each other through mutual acquaintances, and then I can only imagine because I have to shut fucking Shay up. Like we're at Magoo, there's like 50 people in a small room. He's like, oh yeah, work's going really fucking well. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. And
That's a
love
lie.
you.
That's revisionist history.
Oh, is it? Well, we're gonna
I
whitewash
don't know.
this
You
bitch.
can't fucking prove it's not.
So now I'm gonna start videotaping it, and it'll be the next viral thing. And I'm just gonna catch scenes of fucking Shay talking to everyone at shows, ruining it for people.
Never happened. Not once.
Situation was in Vegas. It was a little after Bradley Nola died, so I think it was Long Beach Dub All Stars. And there was a kid right in front of me yelling at the band to quit stealing music from a dead guy, and he was just standing there flipping off the band.
That's a little different. That's wild.
Yeah, a little wild, of course. So I did one of these, and the roadie up on stage just shook his head yes.
Fuck this dude.
Fucking slapped the shit out of this kid. He went down. Security grabbed him and handed him to the other security guard, and they walked him.
Booted his ass.
Yeah.
Well,
so for me, I don't handle choppers too well either.
I was at a Sam Grissman show, and if you guys haven't seen Sam Grissman, first off, go do it. He's playing with Pete Rowan right now. But the Grissman Project, they actually don't plug in their instruments.
Oh, no.
It is all acoustic.
Like true acoustic.
Yes,
Wow.
and they play in front of one mic. So during solos, they walk up and walk back. And this fucking older couple came and big surprise, we're at the very front at the rail. I let some of these girls in front of us because I'm ginormous. And I left to take a piss. I left Kyle in charge. I was like, bro, don't let anybody into our spot. I come back and Kyle had left this fucking old couple. And the band hadn't started playing yet. And I'm like, bro, what are you guys doing? Like, where'd you come from? And the guy goes, I've seen the Grateful Dead 100 times. And I was like, you would think that you would learn some fucking respect then if you've been to that many Dead shows. And this dude was shit-faced, chomping. Pete Rowan is literally telling a story about playing with Jerry Garcia. And this fucking drunk asshole is talking over him. And I'm like, shut the fuck up and let him speak. And eventually, being who I am, I made it so uncomfortable for them that they fucking left like 3 songs into the second set. But chompers are the fucking worst. Unless you're on What's the Reason for This Pod.